Hello.
Noah?
Oh my gosh. Hello.
Dude, what is up?
It is a honor and a long missed pleasure to hear your voice.
Oh my gosh, dude, I'm like smiling so I'm smiling so big right now,
I
man.
I am too. The feeling is mutual.
Oh my gosh, man. Dude,
This
thank
is
you so
such
much for wanting to come on the show, man.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I ever since you started doing these, I remember seeing like the first notification that you had put an episode out and I was like, well, that's a cool initiative. And I just cannot believe I've been lucky enough to be welcomed on here as one of the episodes.
Dude, yeah, I'm so excited because if you've listened to the previous episodes, I constantly am saying how I have this animosity for you, this hatred for you. So I'm finally glad that we can have you on. We can just go at it.
I'm prepared to just level this whole relationship right now.
It all started on that Monday when you didn't open that door for me, you scumbag.
Well, you just had a look on your face, and I just could not justify being nice to you. You know,
No, but
you just interact with people sometime, and you want to be nice, but you're just like, I can't justify with that
yeah.
one.
To be fair, I was a diva on set.
No,
I
I
was
was
always,
trying to. Well, no, somebody asked me who I was doing the podcast with because I had told them about different people who were on the cast of 12 Mighty Orphans, and they
uh-huh.
were like, was this one of like the more kind of like chill ones, or was this the one that kind of was like just having a good time, or like what?" And I'm like, oh, he was much more chill and much more calm.
Oh, thank you for covering for me. You've always been a good liar, so
and
I'm
that's
glad.
and that's not to say anything in particular. It's it was fascinating seeing kind of everybody's working styles, and some people really
Yeah,
like to have kind of like a hyper schedule while they're
yeah,
on set, and I really just admired your ability to slow it down because that's kind of how I operate too.
yeah, dude. You know what? That is so funny because I was thinking about before this, and I'm being dead serious. I was thinking about why, huh? I wonder why me and Noah got along so well. And I was like, it's not just the movie thing because we both are film buffs, I
Yeah.
would say. But also, I was like, you know what? He was just pretty chill. Like, I think I am more drawn towards people that don't have to talk all the time and that are just pretty laid back. And you definitely are. So likewise, friend.
Well, no, I mean, I could not agree more. I'm always somebody I totally listen. I admire people that can be super hyper while on a job and then still maintain the balance of like focus. But
Yes.
I'm kind of somebody like I like being hyper on set and kind of when I'm in sort of the zone.
Uh-huh.
But when it's kind of like I don't know how to describe it. When it's kind of like chill out time, I mean, I need to just chill out because I guess like I'm sure I feel like you're the same way. Where like I'm just like kind of running on so many different levels during a given day that when I have a minute to sit down and relax, I'm going to sit down and relax.
Oh, dude, I love that so much. Like you're reading my mind. That's just how I feel. But hey, just to give the listeners some backstory. So, as I've mentioned before, I did this film, this feature film in Texas around this time last year. I guess we wrapped up. And I know Noah. He was a PA on set, easily the best PA I've ever worked with, and he would just always be on set, always just great guy to be around. And then also he'd come over or I believe, no, you were at the same hotel as us, weren't you?
At the start, I was not, but I requested that I be moved closer to
Yes.
you all
I think we
because
requested because
I
I
felt
mean, we hung out all the time. So it
well, at
just
a
worked
certain point in
better.
time, I'm just like, I mean, I'm working with you all 24/7, and it would be it honestly was just made more sense for me to room closer to you guys than the rest of the crew because as much as I loved working with the rest of the crew, I was kind of around you guys the most,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that I was on a good terms with you all because I was going to have to see you every day.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, like you were in our age group and you fit right in, man. If anything, the movie should be called 13 Mighty Orphans. And
I
then
appreciate that very much. Thank you.
yeah, you're just easygoing. I remember the first time we really hit it off. We were talking about how we both worked with someone similar. What's his last name? His first name's Grant. You know who I'm
Yeah,
talking.
it's I it escapes me right now. I wish I could remember it,
I
but
can't remember his last name, but
it was like it was one of the most like random similar connections that we could have had. Like
yes.
it was like the if there's like a level in like the Nashville film scene below independent movies, I feel like that's kind of the level that we happen to know somebody from. Like that kind of
Yes.
like between independent films and student films.
It's like yes, that level where like I'm surprised you even like I think you asked me you were like or how did it happen? You
Well,
maybe you
to be
mentioned
perfectly honest, I inevitably did some research on
oh,
all of you
okay.
before I met you, just because I just like to know kind of who I'm about to meet on any given set,
No,
and
I agree. I do the same thing.
I kind of I think it was on your IMDb page or something, and
Oh, okay.
it was just one of the credits, and I think it might have been like one of the more recent credits, and I just clicked on it because I was just curious, just like kind of who you might have worked with. And sure enough, it's just like this kid from Nashville that I happened to randomly work on a student film set with. And I thought I was like seeing things. And I looked back in I literally looked like back in my camera roll like 2 years. I'm like, nope, that's the same kid. And so that was like one of the first talking points I tried to, hit you with to try and start
Yeah.
a conversation between us.
And I remember you said that to me, and it was one of my diva days. And I said to you, please don't look me in the eyes. And I walked away, and I had you escorted off set for the day. But then the next day, we got to know each other a little bit better, and
Yeah.
everything was good. No,
I was given permission to come within a 5 foot radius
yes, yes. At times, not
at
always,
at times.
but at times. Um, oh yes, and then I guess I can kind of mention this. I also helped you tape an audition for 12 Mighty Orphans,
You did
which
indeed.
you nailed, by the way.
Thank you very much. It was I out of all the people I could have had read it with me, I'm very glad it was you because it definitely was not it was not the most lighthearted scene to read for.
No, yeah, I don't even know if we can say what it was.
I won't yeah, I mean,
It was
yeah,
a very
I won't say anything more on that, but I'll just say definitely for somebody to just randomly ask you to read a scene with them who you've
Mhm.
never read with before, it was definitely a subject matter that most people would be a little bit hesitant to go for.
Yes. And I can say this part though because it was an article on the film that
Gotcha.
the scene that we taped you for. I don't know if you saw this or not, but it was cut out, and they had to reshoot it a different way using old footage of
Yeah,
different films and different. Did you know that?
I did. I was just afraid to say too much or too little, so I was just quiet.
No, no. That's the best thing. I tried to do the same, but I remember reading an article, and if it's out there, then I can say it. And
Yeah.
only my mom listens to this thing, so we'll be fine. And
Yeah,
she,
you never know. You never know. If it's on Spotify, it's out there forever.
yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, so don't say anything you'll regret. Uh,
I'm counting on myself not to.
yeah, and please don't go murder anyone. That way they try to cancel me just for having you on, even though it was after this. So don't murder
Oh my
anyone.
god. It'll clearly be in direct alignment to whatever we talked about.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted before I start asking you, I wanted to throw some questions your way. Before we do that, I thought I could share this story with the audience. I hope you remember. If not, I'll do the best to remind you. So
Okay.
so during the course of shooting 12 Mighty Orphans, we stayed in three different hotels. And so the last hotel, the one that you stayed at as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but in my room, it stank. Like it something. Do you remember this?
Something happened in there. I don't know what, but something happened in there that should not have happened in there.
Okay, so I can't remember if it was you or Woodrow that I ended up telling what happened. I think it was both of you. It might have just been Woody, but I'm going to share it with you if I
I
didn't
actually guess
already.
I do not have any idea what happened. I just knew that something happened in there that should not have
Okay,
happened.
so it might have just been Woodrow that I told, who I had on this show. You got to go listen to that episode if you haven't. Oh my God.
I absolutely will.
Woody's just great to talk to, and he's great to listen to. He's such a humble, just awesome guy. But
Oh
anyway,
my gosh.
so we're all wondering what has died in Sampley's room. Like, oh my God, it just smelled horrible in there. So I go downstairs. I say, and I'm if it was something that I could live with, then I would have just stayed in that room. But it hurt to breathe. So I was like, hey, is it cool if you change a room? It stinks in that room. And they were like, oh yeah, absolutely. They did it, no hesitation. I got moved into a different room the next day. So that night I actually spent the night in Woodrow's room, and which was fun. I fell asleep to him playing Spider-Man on the PlayStation. And then I'm just gonna throw that
Perfect,
tidbit in there.
perfect, perfect ambiance for sleeping.
Yes, it is. Just Peter Parker swinging around New York. So I spent the night at Woodrow's room. I move into the next room, put all my bags in there, and then I think we all went out to eat or something. And then I come back and it smells in that room again. And this time I think, oh no, that means it's something I have. Because there's no way like this room just stinks. And so I was going through all my bags, and then I come finally to my athletic bag, and I hadn't opened it yet.
Yes. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
do
Yeah.
you remember this?
Okay, I do know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I opened it, and it smelled like, oh, just terrible. And what had happened was when we were moving to the next hotel, I had this protein shaker that I'd been using, and I didn't clean it out the last time I used it. And so I just threw it in my bag, and it sat there, and then it sat in the trunk of my car, and then I moved it back in. So it already smelled like feet in that bag, and it combined with the milk and the powder and the fruit in there, and it was so potent. I don't know if you remember.
You literally had like a science experiment in your athletic bag that you had no idea about.
It was terrible, and so I ended up throwing away the whole bag, and it was one of my favorite bags too. Um,
And it should have been one of it was the best choice you ever made.
yes, but I just thought the listeners would get a kick out of that, just because I feel like everyone in their life goes through something like that where they complain about something and then it ends up being them. And I think I made you promise not to tell anyone.
I mean, just talking about it makes me remember like the smell. So
Yes.
I choose not to talk about it for my own well-being. So I'm glad we could go ahead and just get it out there so that whoever listens to this can hear the story and I don't have to share it with anybody that hasn't heard the
Yes,
podcast.
yes. Okay. Smelly stuff aside, I think another reason why I think I was just really drawn to you as a person, you're just really cool to hang out with, is that I had a movie collection in my hotel room that I brought, and you were like looking at it and be like, "Oh, this movie's awesome! This movie's awesome! Oh, this is on Criterion." And I was like, "You know what Criterion is?" Like, one of the other guys like knew what that was.
It's a secret club. It's a secret club.
It really does feel like that sometimes, and I
Yeah.
kind of feel special when I go to Barnes and Noble and I'm in that 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 area, like looking through the films. I
Yeah.
feel like a little, I feel better than everyone else in that sliver of time. And then I
Yeah.
leave, and then I'm like, oh, I'm just normal like everyone else. I'm not special. My mom's a liar. But uh, you noticed that, and I was like, oh, this guy
Yeah.
knows his stuff. We talked about Seven Samurai. We talked about I'm trying to think. What was it? Oh, today's topic, of course, that we're going to talk about later is Blade Runner, which we both have
Mm-hmm.
a
Yep.
huge love for. So I guess we really never got to sit down and talk about this while we were there on set, because mainly, when we were off set, I would hang out with you, but when we were on set, I would ignore you. We keep up the image. No, but
I tried my best to ignore you too, but I just couldn't help but talk to you.
so Noah, wait, have I even said your name yet? I mean, it's going to be in the titles, but to everyone listening, this is Noah Winter. I don't think I said your full name yet. You,
You might have, but I've already gotten so deep into the conversation I can't remember.
yeah, I know, right?
It's all good.
Um, oh, what was that about? Oh, I was just gonna ask you. So, how did you fall in love with film? Why are you doing what you're doing? And then tell me a little bit about, I believe you, or what's going on with the whole New York thing? Because you were going to school in New York. Has that stopped due to COVID?
It's not stopped so much as like a lot of other people right now, just kind of taken on a different form,
Okay.
and that's obviously kind of more on a digital level now. And the school that I've been at, which highly recommend people, check it out for whatever level of the industry you're on. It's called the New York Film Academy. And what's amazing about it is it's kind of set up like a trade school. And by that, I mean that you kind of come in based on the specific angle you want to pursue, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then based on what angle of kind of the industry you want to pursue, the classes are kind of dispersed out in multiple different time sections. So you can literally come for a week, you can come for 2 weeks, up to like you can come for like 2 years. And the reason they do that is because they have active professionals in the industry teaching as well as attending the school. And
Wow.
because it's a flexible schedule like that, you could go take a job, maybe want to pick up a couple new skills, come to the academy, drop in for about 2 weeks, complete that course, and then go right back out.
I believe that's the same school where I've watched like Al Pacino comes and does a talk, maybe even
Yes, they
Martin
have they have
Scorsese.
great speaker series, and they have made the transition to kind of digital COVID era school with
Mhm.
flying colors. I mean,
Oh, that's
truly,
awesome.
they are just every teacher is like actively working in the industry. Um, you know, every person that is there kind of wants to be there, if that makes sense,
Yes, no, yeah.
because kind of like a big part of like my journey into just loving film and getting more into film was I was at a school in Nashville right after I graduated high school for about 2 years, where I was kind of studying a mix of different majors. I was studying film. I loved film, but I kind of was like still having to convince myself that it was worth it to go for it, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
no, it's a daunting thing for sure.
And kind of over the course of just like refining I guess my taste and my kind of conviction towards my love of just movies and the movie industry, that just kind of, domino effect led to me leaving this school in Nashville and going to New York. Because one of the things I encountered at this kind of traditional university was I was in the film program, but the entry into the film program was much more not lenient, but it was much more easy to kind of by happenstance just find yourself in the film program. And because of that, you get a very mixed bag of people who maybe are just kind of there because they think it'll be an easy thing to do,
Wow.
are there because they're crazy about it, or just kind of there because they're kind of figuring it out, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And when I kind of transitioned to going to New York and kind of making that kind of leap of faith, and it definitely was a leap of
Oh
faith.
yeah. Because where were you
What was
prior to
nice
that?
about
In Tennessee?
go for it.
So you were in Tennessee and then you went to Nashville? Or I'm sorry, you went to Tennessee and
Yeah,
then you went to New York.
yeah. So I grew up in Knoxville, Tennessee, and for anybody that doesn't know, that's about 2 hours east of Nashville. And I graduated high school in Knoxville. I loved growing up in Knoxville, but I mean, you can relate to this very well coming from maybe a similar town in the South. There's kind of an element there where I could tell that if I would have stayed there, I probably would have kind of gotten stuck
Yeah,
there, if you know what I
yeah.
mean. And that's, I mean, there are so many people I grew up with who like they love Knoxville. It is totally their thing. It is just they live and they breathe it, and I respect that. I was just kind of always of the mindset that I really wanted to just kind of get out there and just like see what else was going on.
No, yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. And I don't know, so Knoxville has like they are really big right now for doing the like like almost docu fiction like murder like on the Discovery
Yeah,
Channel.
it's like yeah, like the
Yeah,
crime
yeah,
TV
yeah. So
shows. It kind of just blew up after I like left there to go to college. It was insane. It just became a
Yeah,
huge
but the thing
industry.
is, you could do that there, but then that's all you'll ever do in Knoxville. And if you want to be a director or an actor, like you need to maybe do that once or twice and then move up. So I totally get like being like, all right, guys, I got to go somewhere else.
Totally. And so like, what kind of happened, kind of going back to your point, it's like you kind of just like take these gradual stair
Yeah.
steps towards things. And I always knew that New York was there, but I mean, when I graduated high school, I'm like, no way in heck am I going to New York? I'm like, that just I wasn't afraid of New York or anything. It just didn't feel right. And looking back, I now know it's not because it wasn't right, it's because it wasn't the right
Yeah.
timing yet. And so it kind of just became this gradual stair step where I kind of split the difference and I went, 2 hours away from Knoxville to this school in Nashville. And I won't say it just because I'm talking about some of their programs and I don't want to, specifically call out a program of theirs that someone else might have a different
Uh-huh.
opinion on because this is just my experience. Um, and so I kind of went there just to kind of start expanding my comfort zone a little bit. I'd done a lot of filmmaking projects and like acting projects and just like fun kind of personal
Hmm.
projects and sort of like side businesses growing up in Knoxville, but it was always with people kind of that I already knew in familiar places and familiar circumstances. So it was pretty easy to kind of the learning curve was very small, you know what I mean? And so this school in Nashville was kind of my way of, trying out a new level to outside of my comfort zone and seeing if I could recreate that same love of film and working dynamic in a totally new environment. And so that's kind of what that whole time at this school in Nashville became for about 2 years. Is just me figuring out if I could feel the same way I felt about film and the film industry growing up in Knoxville, doing my own personal projects, but now like in an actual place, sort of designated for the study of that. If
No,
that
yeah,
makes
no.
if you
No, I
follow,
do follow.
and
Yeah.
and so what basically ended up happening is, it was kind of a long kind of like ebbing and flowing path just to get to a point where I really felt comfortable kind of in this sort of student film
Hmm.
community. And it was really cool because at a very kind of early time my in my the years that I spent there, I ended up kind of already working on senior films while I was a freshman. And that just kind of came as a result of kind of the same thing that you and I kind of actively do when we're on set, like on a place in Texas, where it's just constant curiosity, constant
Hmm.
consistency, and a constant just willingness just to kind of try anything when it comes to working on set.
Yes, and that even means sneaking into the Stars trailer to look at their script to see if maybe you can rewrite some things.
That's a special tactic reserved for the veterans.
Yeah, yeah.
You're welcome to drop that tactic as a hint.
No, I know.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like, and it was amazing. Like, I felt very appreciated. I felt very rewarded for the stuff I was working on. I felt like I'd found an amazing community of people. But it was just kind of the same thing again, where it was kind of like I'd reached the Knoxville feel, but in a new
Yeah.
place. Where like I had an amazing group of people. I loved working with them. I still am in contact with a lot of them. But me personally, and just how I felt about where I was headed, I felt like I was kind of on a little bit of a plateau, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. And that doesn't mean by any chance I was perfect
Yeah.
and I was doing everything amazing. Like I had so much more to do at that school. But over the course of those 2 years, I could feel my comfort zone starting to kind of expand once
Hmm.
again to an even kind of further destination. And so it started kind of happening. I was like, I love what I'm doing here. I love the connections I've made. I'm so proud of how I've made those connections. Let's see what happens if I can put myself in like an epicenter of the film industry and use those same tactics that got me into a community here. Does
No,
that make
yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
And I sorry to keep saying does that make sense because I know I'm saying a lot, so I
No,
just want
dude,
to make sure I'm not backtracking on
everything you're
myself.
saying like also applies to like my acting career. Like you're absolutely right. like if you don't mind me interrupting, it's
No,
so
please
when
go
I
for
first
it.
started, the first thing I ever did was I was an extra and a stand-in in a movie that came to Huntsville. And so I did that,
That's
and I was like,
awesome.
okay, now
Yeah,
how do I do this again? But I want to have lines. I want to be one of the main cast. So
totally,
that
totally.
means I got to start taking acting classes continuously. That means I got to do stuff for no pay, not getting anything. I'm spending money to do it for like 1 or 2 years, which I did. Short films, a lot of student films, and when you do student films as an actor, you kind of hope they know what they're doing. And I was really, really blessed to work at a
Absolutely, yeah.
school. I booked this supporting or strong supporting role and it was Watkins University, which I think now
Yeah.
Belmont is absorbing. And I got to work with some, like, I mean, they're still working in the industry today. I got to work with maybe one of the best directors of photography I've ever worked with. Like the footage I have for that
Yeah.
short film, I still have on my acting reel because one, uh, I did a
Totally.
pretty good job, and two, it looks like the best thing I've done. They, which is
Yeah.
weird because I've
No, I laugh not out of like a like laughing mode. I laugh because like it's so relatable because it's so true. So many times when you get into the kind of like that level of the industry, which is like kind of in that realm, right around like independent film and student
uh-huh.
films, it's amazing because you will either find, the most ridiculous set experiences you've ever
Yes.
had, and I don't mean that in a good way, or you will find these little pockets of people who are just in the
Dude,
zone. I mean, they're just like they are operating on a level that you might not even see on a feature film
absolutely
level.
agree with
Like
you.
they they operate on a level where like you could put like $1 million franchise in these kids' hands and they would take it to the moon. Like and that's what's so cool about it is like the quality that comes out of those kind of tight knit groups of people who just live and breathe this
Mhm.
stuff is like what literally, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you. It is what literally kind of re-upped my love of the industry to just keep pushing forward with my
Dude,
momentum.
absolutely. I mean, when you find people that have that same drive and hustle, if not even more than you, you're just like, dang, I gotta step it up. Like,
Yeah, no, I mean everybody feeds into one another, and a lot of times, like people when people talk to me about the film industry and they aren't necessarily in the film industry, they always ask like, why is it so kind of, is it like cheating that like you always see the same people getting roles and the same people getting spots on a crew and the same people getting spots on a production or as producers, and I'm like, when you've kind of had a little kind of foray into the film industry, one of the first things you learn is the absolute backbone of any part of the industry is people having their kind of designated
dude,
squad.
absolutely. Because it's like, if, for example, David McFarland, who was
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah,
12 Mighty
totally.
Orphans, like, if I could get him every single time I was acting in a film, because one, he's amazing at his job, he knows what he's doing. Like, I know he was making us look good. I've seen some of the shots from the film, they look amazing. If I could
Oh,
have him,
they're
really
breathtaking,
hard. If
dude.
I could have him every single time a film was being made, why wouldn't I? He's easy to work with, and
Yeah,
he kicks butt at his job. So it's like, why would I want to
totally,
ruin that? Why would I go with someone else
totally, and
unless he's not available?
totally. And on like another level, if like for the viewers out there, making a film when you break it down is oftentimes the most labor intensive, minute detail, like demanding, most like just multifaceted process you can imagine. Because it is, and what I love about it, it's one of the only industries where every other industry converges.
Yeah,
And on any given set, you're going to have analytical people, creative people, like financial people, carpenters, artists, writers, producers, like
Hair and
all
makeup.
these
Don't forget
different
about
fields. Hair and makeup. How could I forget hair and makeup? And you have like all these fields converging to literally make something from scratch.
Yes.
And if you, as a producer, as an actor, as anybody, if you can have your go-to squad of people, it takes so much pressure off your shoulders when you don't have to think about who to call on when you need help on a
Yes.
project.
Yes. I think that's,
Because you're,
I
you're,
think you, oh,
and I
sorry.
think, no, no,
I
no,
was gonna
please
say,
go ahead.
you
Go ahead.
just described why film and TV are my favorite art forms because when you write a book, it's just the author, right? Maybe sometimes you have a co-author, but mainly it's one or two people. 100% of the time, it's probably just going to be one person. Or a painting, it's just going to be painted by one person. But with film and TV, like you said, all these different people come from different films to put their name on something that ends up
Yeah.
being great or not so great. But most of the time, they had a really great time doing it.
And the crazy thing is about film, like so long as, like digital media keeps working, whatever you film on a given day, if that makes it into the final cut, that's there
Yeah.
forever. Like you've literally just contributed to a small part of
Unless you're
history,
in the
whether it's
background like you shouldn't have been, and then we'll cut you out. We'll have to crop the video.
also true. But even if you're in the background, you're not supposed to be. You're now accidentally in the
Yes,
background
yeah. Oh,
forever.
like I don't know. That's funny. I think I might have said that because subconsciously I was thinking about The Mandalorian. Did you see that?
I was literally just about to say someone saw the screen grab of the crew member in the
Yes.
corner.
That is
Like that unintentional camera spike by that crew member, he is now a part of Star Wars history
he is,
forever.
which is incredible. I wonder if he feels
Unless they retcon every episode of The Mandalorian, he's gonna be in
they're
there
just like
forever.
it's not canon. It's not canon.
It's not good. We had one mistake. Pull the plug on all of it.
But getting back to what we were talking
Yeah, I
about.
know. It's as you and I both know, we get off on
Yeah, why
tangents
not?
easily.
That I mean, like I told you before we started, like this podcast is very relaxed. We can say
Yeah,
whatever we want. You ask me anything, I'll ask you anything. But
yeah.
I was going to ask you. So, at the New York Film Academy, what because you said there's different angles you can apply for and train in. Which one are you
Totally.
going for right now?
So, prior to getting on the 12 Mighty Orphans film set, and this is not to like dictate that my path has changed. I'm just kind of giving like a
No,
chronology of
yeah.
events. Prior to the job in Texas with you guys, I was doing kind of a mix of directing and acting. So it was kind of a fusion of those two. And still kind of pursuing those, but in terms of actual courses that I've been in, I just recently did like a screenwriting course, and I've studied screenwriting for a while, but I've never like officially put myself in a
Uh-huh.
program. And like no matter what level of experience you are on, and obviously I'm talking from a place of not a ton of experience, but once again just my own kind of personal
Mhm.
experiences, and this kind of relates to the film academy as a whole. It's so nice to like legitimately put yourself in a class for something, even if you're super experienced in it. Because what the Film Academy did for me with every class I took is more so than the subject matter you're learning. And this ties back to what we were just talking about. The network of people it puts you in contact with is staggering. The variety of people, the countries they come from, the disciplines that they already know how to do and maybe are still learning, it's just crazy. Because the Film Academy prides itself on having like every nationality you could dream of coming through their
Wow.
doors and coming through their programs. And so like literally like I met a guy like from South America in this recent screenwriting class, and he and I talk very consistently. And if all of a sudden like there's a project someday soon that has something to do with that part of the
Uh-huh.
world, or maybe needs somebody local that has advice on great locations or great stories or great kind of cultural aspects, you start building up this like agenda of people totally organically. Like you're not even trying to do it. It just kind of
Yeah.
happens. And that was one of the best parts about the obviously everything they teach you there is amazing because their whole thing is just to prepare you to be a professional in the industry, no matter what aspect that
Mhm.
is. And they're perfectly understanding that for some people, they may only need a week. For some people, they might need 2 weeks. For some people, they might need 4 years. They're like there to service any level of where you're at in your career. And I'm not trying to sound like an advertisement, but it was just like it was a very important step for
Does your
me before before kind of launching into the feature
Yeah,
film
does your
scene.
dean right now have like a gun to your head? Just like keep it up, Noah. We'll give you another semester's free tuition if you keep
I
talking.
asked him to at least not point it at me for the duration of the
Oh,
podcast.
okay. So it's kind of just in the
No,
holster, but they keep like flashing with the jacket.
he's standing in front of me. He just keeps kind of tapping it, but we'll see what happens.
So,
But yeah, I mean, it just kind of comes down to that where the most recent one I took was like a screenwriting course, but then in just relation to that and the other courses, that was the most important part of my time there. Is it teaches you how to make fast and strong connections with people, and that's how a film set works. Is you are put in a sandbox with a bunch of strangers, and you're asked to make a work of art from
mhm.
scratch. And you gotta figure out your relationships with those people really quick, because if you don't, it's going to be a long couple of
Yeah,
months.
you can't be trying to be, dramatic. You just got to get along and you just got to do it. Uh,
Yeah, you show up, and it doesn't mean you like force a friendship. It just means a place like that is like a training ground to teach you how to just work with every type of person you could possibly hope to work with,
because
if that
no,
makes
because that's
sense.
just like on a film set. I mean, every single day you're meeting somebody and maybe they were there the day
Every
before or
day.
maybe they're brand new, and you kind of have
Totally.
to, as an actor, I've read this great book by Michael Caine, and it's I believe it's just called Michael Caine on film acting. And one of the things he says out the gate is you have to be nice to everyone, because if you're not, then no one will want to work with you, and you'll
Totally. And
drown in
and
this industry.
and not sorry to
No, you're
interrupt
good.
you, not to interrupt you. Because you just reminded me of something, because I talk about that a lot when I talk with people about the film industry, and a lot of people are very quick to take that to the polarity of, oh, so you basically just have to be like really fake and just like be
No,
nice to
yeah,
everybody. And it's like, and it's not that at all. It's like some people are like that. Some people are just very intentionally acting nice, and you can tell they really don't want to
mhm.
be. And luckily I promise I have not encountered that many of those types
Yeah,
of people, because the majority of people you do interact with, it's being nice to everyone in a way of where you're just ready to collaborate on whatever level in whatever common ground you can find for the
dude,
time being.
absolutely. Amen to that. It's not being fake, like you said. It's not, rolling your eyes whenever they walk past you. It's
Yeah,
you are so in love with this craft that you are ready to not only serve the script, but serve anyone else ready to do the same thing. You guys are going in battle together. You have to
totally.
have each other's backs, and you have to have, I mean, because as an actor, my day is going to go a whole lot better if me and my scene partner are warm together and treat each other nice. If vice
Absolutely.
versa, or whether
Absolutely.
it be the sound guy, or the
Yeah,
first AD. It's better when
totally.
everyone's
and most and most of the time, I mean, everyone on that set is coming from a different background of like mental
yes,
specialties. Like, you have some of the most technically gifted people I have ever met in my life on a film set, and some of the most, more abstract creative art form gifted people. And obviously, I mean, the technical arts are arts as
yes,
well, but it's just those different types of people. I mean, everybody has their strengths, everybody has their weaknesses. And every day you're going to interact with people, and in a lot of cases are kind of coming from a totally different way of how their mind works than you, because it's a bunch of different disparate industries, like you said, connected on one project.
absolutely agree with you, man. I don't think I've ever like actually have had a conversation like this with someone else where we're just on the same. We're thinking the same words, man. Like this is
Yeah.
awesome. So
It's an honor. It's an honor on my part to have this conversation as well. It's nice to have somebody to respond in this way
yeah,
too.
no, I no, trust me, deep down in my heart of hearts, I hate you. But
It's okay. I totally understand.
no, no. Um, I was going to ask you. So how did you
Yeah.
end up landing the job for 12 Mighty Orphans? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, kind of like along the same lines, just like domino effect after domino effect. You kind of like catch like a bit of a tailwind and a bit of a momentum, and you just trust yourself to kind of keep pushing forward, even if it feels really kind of scary and doesn't make much
mhm.
sense. And that's kind of what happened. I was working on I was doing school and working on some sets in New York, and I funny enough, like of all the, and this is it's kind of like poetic, like it's very poetic how it happened in a way. Because I was doing all this stuff in New York, kind of like really just kind of seeking where my next kind of like step was going to be, and my next kind of goal, my next kind of just level that I was going to kind of find in New York, and I kind of like really had my eyes peeled for it, and I just wasn't really feeling kind of like I wasn't really like vibing with anything in particular. I was having a lot of fun and getting on some great projects and meeting really cool people, but I wasn't feeling that kind of like next step coming on, if that made
Mhm.
sense. And so I was just kind of like I was just kind of like there in New York, kind of doing my thing, and then my dad's birthday was on the horizon, and I went back to South Carolina for that, which is where I live now. My family moved from Knoxville to South Carolina, so I came down to South Carolina to see everybody for my dad's birthday. And I didn't like I never kind of stopped looking for opportunities, but I definitely wasn't really expecting anything to happen in South Carolina while I'm at my dad's
Yeah.
birthday party. And just really randomly, this old friend of my dad's who literally he has not really been connected with in probably 30 years. Like I probably knew this guy when I was like
Wow.
3. um he just randomly he randomly happened to be there, and not randomly, sorry, from my dad's perspective he was randomly there, but we had kind of secretly tried to organize a kind of
Okay.
surprise for
He
my
wasn't
dad because
cracking.
they were
He's
they were
like, hey.
he wasn't just like following us or anything, but he was kind of like an old co-worker of my dad's, but they really had not talked in like years. And so he and I were talking, and he still lives in Texas, and I was just kind of asking him like, what is he doing now, like what is kind of what's his whole deal kind of out in Texas, is he enjoying living out there? And he just kind of brought up this mutual connection of his happened to be sort of on the fringes of the film industry, and had some kind of kind of connections with a couple of people who were working on some cool stuff, and he was kind of a sports fan, and he heard that there was kind of a cool sports movie going on, and he had a mutual connection on that set. And so they kind of started talking, my dad's friend and this guy that he knew in Texas. And I kind of explained to him what I was doing in New York, and he said, hey man, I don't really know much about the film industry, but I'm thinking of kind of at least kind of seeing what this project is about, and maybe kind of seeing if I can help out in some way. Do you want me to just like connect you with one of the guys that's closer to the project than I am? Like, just so you can just like talk to them about the film industry. Like, I literally set this thing up as if I was literally just going to talk to them about the film industry, just to hear what feature length film production is
Wow.
like, if you know what I mean. And so my dad's friend connected me with his friend in Texas. I started talking to this guy, and then this guy eventually kind of put me on an email thread with the producer of 12 Mighty Orphans, Houston
Mhm.
Hill. And I literally, once again, this whole time, I'm fully going in here expecting and intending for me to just have a really valuable conversation with a professional in the industry. And so I started emailing Houston, and I was just kind of talking to him about, you know, film production and how things are going on this is still pre-production for 12 Mighty Orphans, but they are about probably half a month away from the first day of principal
Uh-huh.
photography. But this was like late in the process. And I was just kind of like talking to Houston, and we were just like discussing things, and we like just really got along over email. Just like had some like really cool kind of exchanges, and I just asked if like we could have a phone call and just discuss, just once again, just discuss the film industry, and so eventually he and I finally kind of, I was back in New York at this time. This was like a month after my dad's birthday, and I get on the phone with Houston, and we just kind of start talking, and we just like had this really cool conversation. And I just kind of told him that I've done a lot of different roles on a lot of different kind of small film sets. I just love kind of helping out how I can. I'm sure that their whole thing is very booked right now in terms of what their crew looks like, but I literally just kind of said, dude, I'm really looking for kind of like a new opportunity. I like, if I could just come and just watch you all in production. I don't even have to be hired. I just want to come and see you all do your thing. Like I'll pay my own way. I'll make it work. I just want to come watch how this
Wow.
happens, because I've never been on like a legitimate kind of full scale feature length
Uh-huh.
film. You know what I mean? I'd only kind of been on like, like cool independent film festival film sets, like just like much more kind of free flowing stuff like that, not like a properly produced, like professional feature length film. And so I just kind of threw it out there, and I was just like, I promise I'll kind of like blend in. I'll fit in. I'll find a space that works. You don't have to worry about me. You don't have to babysit me, but I'd love to just watch you guys in action. And now, I mean, now I know Houston very well, and he's such just like a amazing, very he and Houston is the producer of 12 Mighty Orphans, the film that you and
Uh-huh.
I worked on, and he has one of the most incredible balances of professionalism, but also genuine like friendliness,
No,
if that makes sense.
absolutely.
He can maintain immense professional conduct, but be very genuine in how he talks with people. And so he was literally just like, man, I mean, we could always use an extra set of hands. So if you're really up for it, come on down. And I was like, okay.
Oh my God.
And that's honestly kind of how it happened. Like it was really just like a kind of domino effect, right time, right place. Definitely a stroke of luck. Just
No, man.
the right,
I
I guess, just like
I
the
know
right
you
kind of
probably see it, and I
words.
know you're too humble to probably agree with me. But I know it, it kind of seems like a stroke of luck, but dude, you were just so hungry to learn that I mean, it just drove you right into, 12 Mighty Orphans arms. And so, dude, I mean,
And
what you did, you just
I mean, it's nothing short, and it's the definition of a blessing. It
yes,
truly is.
absolutely. Um, not only is Houston like that, but also his wife Ann, who is
Yes, and
she.
is amazing. I brought up Houston first because he was the first person
Yeah,
I talked to, but Anne was Anne was one of the first people I met when I got to Texas, and like you said, I was like, oh my gosh, she's like being so kind. She was
so,
amazing. I
a
mean,
quick story about both Ann and Houston. So, um,
yeah, please, because I don't know anything about your experience getting into familiarity with them
oh,
through the
really?
casting process.
Okay,
I
I
never
guess
got to
not.
hear
Yeah,
that.
well, let me tell you. I'll try to be fast. So,
I mean, take your
last
time.
year, 2019, it's February. I'm
Yeah,
working at Publix. At this point in time, I've done really just mainly short films and student films. So I tape for 12 Mighty Orphans, and then I just kind of forget about it. Honestly, it's one of those auditions I got where it was due so fast, I just had to do it. I didn't really have,
you
I
just had
just
to
had to
go
do it.
for
I
it.
didn't, I just kind of read it as myself. And I actually, the first role
Yeah.
I auditioned for was Fairbanks. So I forget about it. And then
Okay.
over time, I booked a couple. I booked a TV show, and then I booked two feature films. So I added those to my resume, and my resume at this point, it's not looking bad for someone from Huntsville, Alabama.
No, it's not at all. I'm very impressed
Oh,
with it.
thank you, and I'm so happy that I got to work on those sets because I did this movie called The Friend with Casey Affleck and Jason Segel and Dakota Johnson. I was a day player on that, and that was really cool
Yeah.
because I got to work with big stars for the first time, and it kind of made me comfortable doing that. And oh, they're just normal people like me. And then I do another movie, same thing, except in Mississippi for 2 days, so one more day than the feature before. And then, dude, I really love the people at Publix. It's a grocery store.
Oh, I'm
Okay,
familiar with Publix.
I was a cashier, and then I also did customer service at the desk. But dude, I am one of those people where if I work too long at a job like that, I just it
Yeah,
really weighs down on my soul, my imagination, and it really starts to make
absolutely.
me and I was
Absolutely.
depressed for a short while there, honestly. And
Yeah.
I get a call from I literally check out or not check out, but clock out from Publix. I'm driving in my car, and dude, it's just one of
Dude.
those things where I was just like so fed up. But at the same time, I
Yeah.
have a job. What are you complaining about? I get a call from my agent, and I'm like, my
Yeah.
agent rarely calls me. So I pick it up, and she's like, "Hey, do you remember that film you auditioned for, the football one?" And I was like, "No, honestly, I was like,
Dude.
I
Wow.
don't." And she was like, "12 Mighty Orphans." I was like, "Doesn't ring a bell." She was like, "Okay, well, you have a callback for it, and it's in 2 days in Texas, and you have to be there. They want to see if you can throw the football and catch it and run." And so
Oh
I was
my
like, okay, whatever. And I was like, it was probably just some
yeah.
short film, I auditioned for. I go
Yeah.
back home, check my actor's access, and I find it. I'm like, oh, shoot, a SAG film? I can't believe I forgot that. I was like, okay, I remember running in my parents' room and be like, I was like, can one of you go to Texas with me?
Can
It's a
you
12
take me to
hour drive, and
Texas?
I know I can't do that by
Yeah.
myself. So, you know, I, I hear a lot of stories.
Golly,
I hear
man,
a lot
that's
of stories
amazing.
where from actors where they say my parents never supported me, well, and I feel so bad for them. I somehow got like I won the lottery because my parents since day one have always supported me. My dad was like, "Let's go." So I call my
Absolutely.
manager. I
Yeah, I do have to say one thing real quick, just so I can have it down on recording, and
uh-huh.
not to interrupt you. Same thing in my case with my parents. It has just been a absolute. I mean, it's been beyond the death. It's been beyond a
Yes.
blessing. I mean, they are always just kind of ready to, even if they might not know how to actively help
Hmm.
me, they're always there to just field support wherever it's needed, and it is the driving factor in this whole
We'll
journey
and we'll
for
never
sure.
appreciate them enough, but that's just how children are supposed to be.
I I guess
But
so, man. I
dude,
guess so, but I'm glad to
I'm
hear
glad
you
to hear
say
you
that.
say that. But so my dad's ready. I call my manager and also bless that he's like, I understand. We'll try to find someone to cover for you because I had a great manager at Publix because he was rooting for me. He would always ask me what I was doing. So I drive down there. I do the football with Coach TJ, who was incredible. That was so much fun. Got to meet some of the guys. There was about
Yeah.
maybe 20, 25 of us there. So it was kind of like, okay, so I have a pretty good chance at maybe, yeah, about 50% chance at, nabbing one of these roles. I meet Ty, I meet Lane, and then I cut myself on my leg.
What?
I dove for the football to make a catch. Dude, I don't know if you know this about me. I'm very competitive when it comes to sports. So I showed up and I was like, I'm gonna smoke all these guys. Like
that's
so I dove
that's
for this
amazing. That's
ball
perfect.
and I scratched up my shin and it was bleeding and
Dude, that probably sealed the deal. That probably
Ty
sealed the
was
deal right
like
there.
because he was like, hey Sampley, I actually want to have you read for another role. Why don't you go to the shoot, not the studio but where they're having all their production stuff. What word am I looking for?
The
Production
production
office.
office?
Thank you. So he was like, go there, get it wrapped up, and then I'll meet you there. So I go there, I wrap it up. There were sandwiches in the break room, so I like ate two sandwiches as fast as I could until someone didn't see me. And then I go out and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, when is this gonna happen? I don't know what role I'm doing. I'm totally unprepared. I don't know what's going on. And then Houston's like, oh hey, he sits me down. He's like, dude, sorry. Ty's like, he's meeting with this like huge actor right now who ended up being Martin Sheen. and Houston was telling me all this stuff, and I was like, man, this guy's like really nice. And he was like, oh, here's Ty's number. Shoot him a
Yeah.
text, and then you can meet him at the place he's staying. So I was like, man, that guy was like really nice, and I didn't know he was like one of the producers. I thought maybe he was like a PA or an assistant. He was like, hi, my name's Houston, just because he's so nice. And then I go back. No, I drive to where Ty is staying, and believe it or
Yeah.
not, I read for I read for Chicken, I read for Weedy, and then I read for what was the other role I read for? I read for three while I was there. I can't remember the other one. Oh, it might have been Miller or Leon.
Mm.
It might have been Leon, I think.
Yeah. And for the viewers,
Yes,
these are all names
yes,
of the
I should've-
different
yeah, thank you.
football players in the
Thank you,
film, just to
Noah. So I
clarify.
read for three of these roles, and then, believe it or not,
Yeah.
so we're sitting. Ty's sitting on the couch reading, and then Anne had her iPhone like standing like right next to me, and dude, both Ty and Ann were just so chill and so relaxed. There was no pressure on me to like perform well, and like they just like they do. Obviously something clicked with Chicken, and then flash forward a week later, I get another callback for the chemistry callback. Ann and Houston, and then Ty, and then Sarah Dowling were in the room, I believe, for that, and then the rest is history. Um,
Dude, that's amazing.
so
I do have to ask you. I want to
yes.
ask you a quick question because I can imagine being a listener to this. This is something that I would probably want to ask you. How did you, and how do you maintain your kind of I guess I don't know if serenity is the right word, but like just like how do you maintain a calm and focused demeanor when you're getting to progressively closer stages of getting the role?
That
Because I feel like as you get closer and closer, I can imagine that being like very like, oh my
yeah,
gosh. And like I can imagine somebody maybe psyching themselves out
it's
as they get
it's
closer and closer to
exciting, but
that.
also it's kind of like, well, hold on there because you don't have it yet. Because at the chemistry callback, it was kind of like, I think I have a really good shot at booking a role, but at the same time, there's going to be 50 young men walking in and out of that audition room because it was, so what are your chances? I'm a man of faith. I'm a believer. And so I just say, God, whatever your will is, it will be done. If I don't book it, then that's
Yeah.
okay. You have a greater one for me in the future. Excuse me. If I do,
Bless you.
if I do book it, then that's incredible. Thank you, God. So
Right.
sorry, I'm drinking tea.
That's okay. You're talking with so much excitement you can't breathe.
It went down the wrong hole as I'm talking about this really important thing. But I'm good now.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I kind of do that. Now, there have been times where I've gotten a call back for something and then I don't get it. And I'm kind of bummed, but at the same time, I'm just like, another actor got that. I'm so happy for him. Like,
That's
I
awesome.
think if you
That's
don't
really
have a mindset like this, the industry can weed you out pretty fast. Jealousy is
absolutely.
not something that you should be proud of. If you're mad that someone took your role, it's like, dude, they didn't take your role. That was their role to begin with. That's just how it works.
And that's the key because when you kind of are able to peek behind the curtain a little bit and be on
Mhm.
film sets and see the casting process, literally there is not a number in existence that can quantify how many factors go in to the casting of one
I
person.
absolutely agree with that.
I mean, it can literally be everything from age to, just the kind of
Mhm.
vibe that you have to the way you interact with another actor who they might have already chosen. I mean, and it has nothing to do with
Nope.
you as a person. It all has to do with what they have in their minds
Yes,
as the
because
vision
you
for the
don't know their
character.
vision, you kind of just hope that you'll match up.
Yeah. And sometimes you could come in and completely have them get a revelation about their vision
Yes.
and they're like, that wasn't the vision, this is the vision. And it's like there are so many factors. And so I always come back to when someone gets cast, it literally, it's honestly, it's not coincidence. It's almost like it's meant to be when somebody gets cast in a certain role.
Yeah, I think it's very
And I don't say that to be like, like
yeah.
wishy-washy and everything. Just like from my personal experience watching how much consideration goes into the casting of even one person, that person that eventually gets it, they like literally every experience in their life has in some way shaped them to be just right for that
Yes,
moment.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's very rare when someone is miscast in a role. I am for casting directors.
And even when people do get miscast, there is a reason, even if we don't know it, why that person got put in that role in the
Yes,
first
yeah,
place.
I agree, and I think that I'm on board with casting directors being nominated by the Academy. I think it's kind of outrageous that there's not an
Absolutely.
award for that already because that is an extremely hard job.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't fathom it having to decide what individual out of all the incredibly amazing variety of individuals that can walk through the door on any project, how to decide which individual will best convey the
Yes, to
essence of
give
that
the
character.
listeners an idea of what that's like. Okay, let's say an audition, a breakdown is what you would call it on Actors Access, comes out for a role that has just one line, just one line. You're not a main character, you're not supporting, you have one line, and it may be to where you're off, they may even shoot you off camera because they figure it out that day. But 5,000 actors will submit for that role. 1,000 actors will get to audition for that role, and then maybe 50 get callbacks. And then if they do another round of callbacks, 5, 10. And then sometimes if you're booking straight off tape, you have to weed through those thousands of submissions that you got. And
Yeah.
I've been to a casting director's this one workshop where she said sometimes I don't even watch the videos. I just go off the thumbnail because there are so many entries. They just have to go. They just have to delete, 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 keep,
And
delete, 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 keep.
and it is like someone who appreciates any type of art. It either sparks or it doesn't. It's either there or it's not. And that's why a lot of casting directors use that method, because there is not enough time in the universe to go through that many videos
No, there's
sometimes. And honestly, and for moviegoers, they're not thinking about all those factors. For a moviegoer, when that person's face shows up on screen, it's either going to click or it's
not.
not going to click. And that the casting director's job is to choose the person who is going to click with the audience the with the least amount of
Mm-hmm.
difficulty. And in that, and you see, like, even with villains in films, if the villain is cast well, even if they're a not good character, you will click with
Oh
the
yeah,
actor, and it will snap into
I
place.
absolutely agree with you. And I don't know if you know this or not. This was a fun fact that I learned this past week. You've seen Back to the Future, right? Okay, good. I figured.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Michael J. Fox, right? Marty. Did
Yeah.
you know that originally an actor named Eric Stoltz played Marty McFly, and they shot 80 to like 90% of the film? And then Steven
What?
Spielberg, who was the executive producer, was like, he's just not Marty. And so they ended up casting Michael J. Fox, and they reshot everything practically.
Oh my lord.
Now, that's an expensive miscast, but the only reason they
That's
cast him is because
very.
they originally tried to get Michael J. Fox, but they couldn't because of his work on Family Ties. And
Oh, okay.
Eric Stoltz was kind of this up and coming like method actor, like very James Dean esque, very serious, and he just wasn't like the fit for Marty McFly.
Yeah.
Speaking of sci-fi movies, great segue. Want to talk some Blade Runner?
I Absolutely. I'll say one thing to
Yeah,
tie off
please
that
do,
last
please do.
part, and then I absolutely want to talk about Blade Runner. And honestly, this little last point can kind of conceptually tie into Blade Runner too. I feel like a lot of people can hear a conversation like that, the kind of that
Uh-huh.
section we just had there, and be kind of discouraged by the odds. But truly and honestly, it is, when we talk about stuff like that, it has nothing to do with trying to scare people with the odds of getting cast or getting into a position like that, because that it's not about discouraging. It's about reminding yourself, not that there's all these odds against you, but that if you are just following the momentum, if you kind of follow that kind of guidance and you follow a sort of tailwind in that momentum, and you are just, you do what you need to be to kind of be where
Mm-hmm.
you need to be in the given moment, you'll be where you need to be down the
Yes.
road. And often, if you are really meant to fall in love and have this industry as a major part of your life, those opportunities will reveal themselves to you. And it is just your job to get out of your own way, because that is what stops the most people, is they get right on the edges, or they get into it and they kind of will be their own worst
Yes.
enemy.
Dude, nicely said. Oh my gosh, dude. You should host.
Well, no, I say it from experience, because I mean, like, at any level of the industry you're at, it happens to everyone at every level, and it's the nature of a creative industry. Self-doubt and creativity go very close hand in
Absolutely.
hand.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I mean, I'm not trying to be like preachy or anything, but it's true. It's just like, I never in a billion years could have planned being on that film set with you and everybody else. And the only thing that I could control, and the only thing I could plan on, is in any given moment in the time that led up to me getting that opportunity, I just had to make sure I was squared away to the best of my ability, in the best sort of self-perception I could be in any given moment.
That
Does that
yeah,
make
that makes
sense?
the perfect sense, man.
And there's this quote I always go back to, and it's about like, be where you need to be now, and you'll be where you need to
Oh,
be
that's
later.
awesome. I like that.
And I follow that quote all the time, and it sounds kind of hokey
Um,
when you say it, but it's really, really effective if you follow it, and you just really, you just moderate yourself, and you have practiced self-awareness of that kind of voice inside you that might try and throw you in a completely opposite direction of
yeah, another
momentum.
one I like that maybe sound kind of hokey, but it's true is the secret to success is showing up. You just got to show up,
Absolutely.
and kind of like what you said, you can't plan for that stuff now, because you said, I can't plan. I could have never planned to be on that film set. Now we planned for you not to be, because Houston actually showed us a list of PAs that would be accepted, and I saw your face and I said no. I said absolutely, please no. But hey, like you said, you can't plan for things like that.
Luckily my picture was never given to the employment in
Yeah, blew away, and
sector. So you couldn't doubt me before
I
I did.
tried my hardest. No, I really did.
You tried to envision me coming on set
um,
and just preempting your
so,
doubts.
speaking of being on set,
No.
while we were on set, we figured out
Yeah,
we had a love for Blade Runner. No,
absolutely.
no, no,
Sorry, yeah. Let's definitely
no, no, no.
get
I'm
back into
famous for my segues. They call me Segway Sampley.
that should be your new handle for the whoever's like the, if you can like type in the handle for who runs this podcast, you should call
It's
yourself
just me.
Segway
This
Sam.
is a one-man show, man. It's just me.
That's
So
amazing.
Blade Runner, I don't think I've met anyone else that has such a love for not only the Blade Runner 2049, but also the original. So
Yeah. Dude, I mean, golly,
oh
it's
yes, I
fantastic.
can't highly recommend like them.
Both
They're
of them.
so great in so many
The
different ways, but they're still on that same
Yeah.
level, if that makes sense.
And even if, whoever's listening to this, even if it might not be your cup of tea, or even if you don't know anything about it, I have encountered, at least in my life, that even people who might not be on the level that you and I are of our love for it, they appreciate the message it tries to get
Yes.
across.
I
And funny enough, the message kind of comes back to this whole conversation, which is that quote in the first film at the end, when I forget the actor's name, but
oh
he's like talking to Harrison
Rutger
Ford,
Hauer.
and no, well, that was definitely a big scene, but my favorite scene actually comes after that, when he's like, It's too bad she won't live, but then again, who
Oh,
does?
oh, let me. I know who you're talking about. What? Is it Edward James Olmos?
It might. Yes, I think it is. I think it is.
I
Yeah.
get IMDb up. I always get IMDb up. Dude. Oh,
Yeah, go
there's
for
so
it.
many.
But I bring that up because, like, honestly, the Blade Runner conversation inevitably segues back to what we've been talking about because it deals with how do you define someone
Yeah.
being alive? Like, how do you define someone as a living person? And that whole quote kind of gives credence to that idea that a lot of people will allow external and internal factors to stop them from living a life that they truly want to live.
Yes, I feel like the first one, um, like I mean, everything you just said, it echoes that sentiment, and then also the second one also adds on to it in a mind
Absolutely.
bending way
Yes.
where, um, it's almost like, and spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it yet. I'm not going to say
It's been out for like
I'm
it's
not
been
going to
out for 3 years.
say
Go see it.
what is like what directly happens at the ending, but kind of what the themes are to me, anyways. Because so it's kind of like Denis Villeneuve is like shoving these answers in your face because it presents a question
Yeah.
about Ryan Gosling's character: is he human or is he a replicant? And Denis
Yeah.
Villeneuve constantly, like on a second rewatch or another rewatch, you see the brilliance that he does is that he pushes the answers in your face, but you so want Ryan Gosling's character to be a human and to be a hero that you
Yes.
ignore
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
without realizing it because you want him to be a
Can we?
hero because you
Yeah.
see yourself as a hero, not just some cog in a machine like he
Yes.
ends up being.
Yes. Absolutely. And can we do a
Yes.
spoiler including
Uh-huh.
conversation? Okay. Sorry for all those out there. You really owe it to yourself.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful film. Um I it's one of the first films I can ever remember seeing where I actively noticed a plot device being used where the main character realizes that the story isn't about
Yes.
them. And when I had that moment in the movie theater, and I saw this movie when I was in the middle of my
Uh-huh.
time in Nashville and just like trying to wrap my mind around what the hell I was doing. And that was just like a very confused point in my life and very, just crazy time in my life. And that's when I saw this film. And it blew my mind because it was so beautiful how the story guides him in understanding that he's actually not the chosen one. He's not the one that he
Uh-huh.
thought he was going to be. He's not, this end all, this be all end all to the story. But what's so cool about that is through that realization, he also realizes that this whole incredible, life changing, and potentially world changing journey he's been on, he basically created for
Yes,
himself.
yes. Because he has that
Like
moment.
he was totally like before he was trapped in kind of the cyclical, mundane job, everyday life, and just kind of going by the ropes. And it's this kind of situation where he thought he might actually be different, even though an external thing prompted him to start the journey. He gave himself that kind of inner dialogue that kept pushing
Yes.
him forward.
What is that quote by Dave Bautista in the film? Where do you remember where he is
Yeah.
looking at the billboard? I'm not going to say of what character because that I don't want to spoil it too much. But it's right after he's been told, "Listen, you're not the chosen one. What are you talking about?" And he has this point where he can either go save Deckard or he could just leave and die sometime later. And what is
Absolutely.
that quote? I got to look it up. I got to look it up because
I'm It's not David. Oh wait,
it's the actor Dave Bautista. I can't remember that character's name.
is it like a
Yeah,
flashback scene where Dave Bautista says a line
yes, it
from the
is. What is
beginning?
that quote?
I know that he says like you're so happy it's like something along the lines of you're so happy living this mundane sort of ridiculous lifestyle because you've never seen
Yes,
a
yes, you've
miracle
never
or
seen
something
a
like that.
miracle because you've never seen a miracle. I love that, like that just plays over that. And he then is just like, you know what? Even though I'm not the chosen one, I'm still going to at least be a hero in this very, very small moment that no one will ever talk about or no one will ever remember. And that's,
But see, in a
say that again?
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say,
Oh, I was just saying that you speak. This is your podcast. You go. Go for it. Can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason. Our audio's
Noah,
been
can you
cut
hear me
out.
now?
I can
Okay,
hear
that
you
was
now. You're
weird.
back. Thank goodness.
I said,
It's okay.
I
You
said,
you go for
I was giving you a shun of silence. Actually, nothing happened over there. No,
it.
I was saying is his decision to say, you know what, I don't need to be a hero, and he goes and does this act that no one will ever remember is why it makes him a hero in my book at the end of the day. But what were you going to say?
It was honestly along the same lines where even though he's realized that his sort of fantasy that took him on this journey
Mm-hmm.
was false, I think there's a part of him that realizes, okay, the fantasy was false, but I took myself on that journey. I made the choice to
Yeah.
follow this path. So, in a way, even though I'm not the chosen one, I have, even though he's not the chosen one, this fantasy took him on a journey that did change a lot of people's lives.
Yes.
And so even though he's not the chosen one, his fantasy of being the chosen one actually in a way kind of made him the only person who could actively change the outcome of that
Yes.
story.
And
And I feel like
I was just going to
go
say
for it.
one of my favorite aspects of that movie is that so I had someone tell me that they liked the movie, but they didn't. They thought it should have ended with something happening with, you know, the army of replicants forming up against Wallace. But personally, for me, I'm just like, well, we can kind of assume what happens after that. But the real story was about Deckard and his daughter and what life really is and what it really means. It wasn't ever about setting up a sequel for a war. It's Blade Runner is
Totally.
not an action film. It has some action in it, but it is not an action film.
It is very
Exactly, yeah.
philosophical,
Especially
but in a very well done way, not in a way that like you're going to get
yes.
exhausted by the ideas or you're going to get it. It is very
Oh,
watchable for
extremely
anybody.
entertaining. One of my favorite moments in an action film ever, or just a moment of action, is when he arrives on kind of like that dump. I can't remember what part of the city he's in, but it's like that. It's like completely wiped out.
It's like
All the scrap
the
pits are these
scrapyard.
scavengers come out, and dude, he just takes them all out within like a.
Oh my gosh, no, I mean he literally does not. He's a at the end of the day he is a machine
And you know
designed
what's
to
great
hunt
about that scene
things.
is, you know, earlier he tells what's that actress's name? Oh, I always forget his boss essentially.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it
Robin White.
Robin Wright?
He essentially tells her, you know, I've never killed a living being before. And then cut to that. Did you notice that when he shoots all of them, he shoots them all in like the thigh or like the side so they don't die?
That's right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's
I just
right.
thought that was like a brilliant like little detail they put in just to be consistent. But
Oh
dude,
my
yeah, I know
gosh,
it's
you're
such a
right.
great
Yeah.
film. It's like I wish it's kind of a bummer it didn't like it did okay at the box office, but it didn't blow up by any like it didn't have Marvel numbers. I
Well, to be fair, the way that they advertised it, they almost advertised it like it was going to be like a sci-fi
Yeah,
Marvel
that's
movie.
true.
But anybody that's kind of has a little love for the film industry knows that the director
Mm,
Denis Villeneuve does not he does
he
not
is
do
so
movies
good.
like that.
I mean, Prisoners, Enemy, Arrival, and then Dune's coming out next year. I can't wait for that.
if anybody out there maybe isn't super into film, but wants a kind of tool bag of things to talk about with anybody to really impress them or get a conversation going, watch any of Denis Villeneuve's
Yes,
films.
I think because he didn't really blow up until
They ignite the inner film aficionado in
yes. Oh, I absolutely
anybody.
agree. And his casting is on point. Him and Jake Gyllenhaal, if they work
Yeah.
together for the rest of their lives, I would love that. Um, and then he also got an amazing performance out of Hugh Jackman in Prisoners. And then Amy Adams in Arrival is
Oh my
great.
god, yeah. Oh, Arrival is still one of
Oh, it's
my
so good.
all-time
But
favorites.
in Blade Runner, Harrison Ford crushes it. And then the main bad guy, I wanted to mention her because, dude, I seriously thought she might have been nominated. What
Oh, she was
terrifying.
fantastic. And it's fascinating because once again on like the philosophical stuff, what's so cool about the movie is nothing is ever just good or bad. It's not black and white. You know, like this woman that plays the kind of main antagonist to Ryan
Mhm.
Gosling's character, she is definitely not a very nice person by
Yes.
any means. She's quite a demented
Mhm.
individual. But in the same way that Ryan Gosling's character is kind of following this inner kind of way that he sees himself and how he wants his life to be, she's the exact same way. She's just following her
Yes.
own hopes for how she
And
wants her life to
Sylvia
be.
Hoeks is her name. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah, yeah,
crushed it,
yeah.
dude. So
And and unfortunately, and she played it so brilliantly, it leads her down a very
mhm.
dark path of this idea that she wants to be the one that is seen as more than just a replicant robot, because she's also a robot, she's also a
Yes.
replicant. And just like Ryan Gosling, her wish in life is to be seen as more than just
Yes,
just a
she's
tool.
the as they say that you should make the villain almost like the same as your protagonist, except they just have different objectives. Or I'm sorry, not different objectives. They have the
Yeah,
same objective. They have different
yeah.
ways of accomplishing it. That's what I meant.
Yes, totally. And that's definitely what you see with her character, and it speaks so much to just real life. I mean,
Dude,
it's
it is.
amazing because it just shows like you can be. And I feel like you and I can both relate to this on a level of one of the biggest driving factors, I feel like, for both of us in just this kind of domino effect journey of momentum and just having new experiences, new opportunities, is the through line with it all is that you have this kind of overarching sense of just yourself and how you fit into the world and your life's journey. And you just have this kind of value of yourself
Mhm.
in your journey, and you trust the value of the gifts and the skill set and the circumstances you've been placed into.
Yes. Yeah, dude. Man, you're.
And I
I was
mean,
gonna
and
say you're just such a well-spoken individual.
I mean, dude, you elicit it. You run the thing perfectly. But it's the same thing. Like Ryan Gosling's character would have not had any of those life-changing and potentially in the future of that movie
Mhm.
world-changing impacts had he not followed that kind of inner larger sense of himself. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
No, I absolutely.
Like you can't go on this amazing journey if you don't have a vision of how you see
Mhm.
yourself that's on that level. It's like you have to already see yourself at that level before you even start the journey.
Absolutely agree with you, man. And it's making me want to watch the movie right now because my
Me
fiance,
too.
Erin, she has not seen either of them. So her and I will be watching them ASAP, definitely before the year's over, just because she needs to
Yeah.
see those films.
Yeah, see, you have got to tell me
I
about
will.
them.
And she has one of the reasons like I fell in love with her. And when I say this, people are like, oh yeah, sure. But it's really important to me that like the person I was going to marry has a good taste in film, and she did. The first time we went on a date, I was like, "What are your three favorite movies?" She said, "Back to the Future, Jurassic Park, and Spirit." Which Spirit is the animated.
Done.
I know.
Where's the
I was.
ring?
I don't
Where's the
think she
ring?
realized, and I've told her this before, and she's like, "No, you're joking." And I was like, "No, literally." Like I was like, "She's the one."
Oh no, it's like she mentioned three of my
Yeah,
favorites. It's done.
like
I'm
she, yeah. So she has a great taste. So
done,
I
done,
feel like
done
she
deal, done deal.
really,
That's
really, really
awesome.
like them, especially
I'm
2048.
so happy
Oh,
for you,
thanks,
man. That's
man.
so cool.
But dude, we're already almost at 1:30, so I'm gonna have to, dude. I'm definitely having you on another episode. I hope you know that.
I'd be honored. I think there's one more kind of cool thing that I you kind of your questions with Blade Runner kind of
Uh
sparked
huh.
my mind with. It doesn't relate to Blade Runner, but in a way it kind of does. And it's just like it's one of those quotes where it can be seen as controversial in some ways because
Uh
of the
huh.
person it's about, but it's always just really given me a lot to think about. And it also does have some legitimate, you know, values when it comes to sort of pursuing, especially a direction in life that maybe might not seem practical to most
Hmm.
people, if that makes sense. And it kind of relates to this idea of like, you know, if you deprive yourself of that journey, then you deprive the world of that journey, and the world, you never know, could really need your journey
Yeah.
on some level in its progression or something. And the quote was from somebody who was like a scholar of like Alexander the Great. And I have a feeling you're a big
Yes,
history
I
guy
love
too.
history.
I love history. I'm just like I just love reading history. And there's this quote by this scholar who studied Alexander the Great. And for those of you that might not know, I hope you know, but if you don't, it's totally okay. He basically ruled an empire that covered the majority of
Yeah.
the known world back then at like the age
Hmm.
of 24. And the quote basically had to do with the person was saying, if anything, despite all the maybe different ways you can see his conquests and maybe what it caused and maybe who suffered as a result of it, he proved that people can be so much more than their immediate circumstances if they would just believe in themselves to go for it and trust in that vision of themselves. And the quote basically said that people who miss out on that self belief will kill more people than he
Oh
did in all
wow,
of his wars.
dude.
And it's really extreme, but I mean, you can take it on a lot of ways of just saying, if you deprive yourself of that belief that could lead you down that journey, you have no idea who could be on the receiving end of your journey and your acts in your life that could really need that
Hmm.
in their own life, but maybe won't get it because, like maybe Ryan Gosling's character, you decide to not go for it. Fortunately,
Yeah,
he decided to
that
go
is
for it.
so funny that you said
And
that quote because I Chicken in 12 Body Orphans actually says that exact quote. No, I'm
he
just messing with
does. Honestly, I was about to believe you because like there's scenes in the movie that like take
you.
place in like
Yeah, wouldn't
history
that be
classrooms, and I was
hilarious
like,
though if
did I
like
miss? I was like, did I? I was literally, I was like, did I miss
you
that
were
part of the
off that day?
script?
Chicken's just giving soliloquies like in the locker room. No, Chicken's the dumbest one.
I mean, one of the characters
That's
quotes from
true.
the
That's
Odyssey,
right.
and so I was like, I was, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I was like on mission. I fell
That's
asleep that
great.
day.
Yeah, you were too busy getting
But I
my
mean,
jelly
I
filled
know,
donuts for my trailer.
yeah, I I know it's an extreme quote, but it's like I don't know, it's one that I find really
Well, I love that.
fascinating.
Well, life is, is the only thing we do. And, and my belief is that God put me on this earth to accomplish things. And if I don't accomplish those, then what am I doing? So I absolutely agree with that quote.
Yeah,
But, dude, yeah, I'm definitely going to have you on another time, definitely next season, or maybe even this season, just because I love talking to you, Noah. You're a great
I'd be
You're
honored
knowledgeable about
anytime.
what you're doing. You're not just somebody. This is a great quote, and I'll share this with you. It's not. I don't think it's as
Please do, please
longer as
do.
controversial as yours, but yours is definitely way more important. But I think this one is.
No, hey, it
So
all relates. It all
Stella
relates.
Adler said, "It's
Okay.
practical to be a Hollywood movie star. It's extremely, extremely hard to want to be in a Eugene O'Neill play." Yeah. It's really,
I think
really
I know what you
easy
mean. Do you want to
for
explain that
it's
for
really
the viewers?
easy for anyone to say, I'm going to be famous, especially now with TikTok, YouTube. It's so easy to be famous. You can just be famous within a day. You never know. But it's so hard to be knowledgeable and passionate about the craft that you're doing, to study and do the great works. And Eugene O'Neill is one of the best playwrights of all time. Iceman Cometh, Long Day's Journey Into Night, The Ape Man, or wait, no, sorry, not The Ape Man, The Hairy Ape. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said that. And another great one I recently read called Beyond the Horizon. So I think, it's like why we gotta roll up our sleeves
quote.
and really work hard. But dude, you're so hard.
And this can relate to any industry. It doesn't have to be the film industry. It's like, it's one thing to just want to be, the top of whatever industry you're in. It's another thing to want to be a well-rounded, like deeply involved member of that industry that you want to be a part of, or that job you want to be a part of, that direction.
No, I absolutely, absolutely. This is not just for people who want to get into acting or filmmaking. This is for people at the cubicle where you feel like, I could be manager, but maybe I don't want to take that step, or maybe you're working, dude, you could be flipping burgers and you can get above that. I mean, if you love that, you can become a chef, right? I mean, there's so many different things that you can do. If you put the work in.
If your eyes are open in the right way, and you really have the right feeling about where you want to go, the signs will show up. And if you miss it once, it'll come to you again. It'll keep coming to you until you're ready to see it. And then you just kind of follow the momentum.
Dude, well said. Dude, I think that's a great place to end the podcast. This has easily been one of my favorite ones I've done so far. I can't wait to drop this. But everybody, do you want people following you on Instagram, or
they can?
What's your handle?
I know
a guy.
That's not a joke. That's actually my Instagram handle. Although it was taken by a couple people, so I had to spell it with like weird lowercase letters and asterisks and stuff. I'll if you want to share it with people, if someone's asking about it,
I will. And do you have anything coming up, or maybe do you want to tell anyone about anything that they should go check out? Or,
man, I mean, if you want just just go watch Blade Runner,
I was hoping you would say that.
I mean, listen, I can say that it might not instantly resonate with you, but the conversations you'll have with people, and even with just yourself, or the conversations you'll have just researching it online, most often will give you some really cool insight into wherever you are in your life. Every time I revisit it, it gives me something new to go on in whatever stage of life I'm at.
Again, well said. Oh my gosh. You're so well spoken, man. I wish, seriously, I'm gonna have to take some speech lessons with you.
Thank you, dude. Dude, listen, this is a pleasure. You're such a cool guy to talk to. You were a cool guy on the set. I questioned it.
You're like, is he real?
No. No, you've always been a very, very awesome guy to talk to, and I appreciate.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your friendship, Noah. And everybody, I did not pay him to say that. He means that. He's coming from the heart. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Feel free to give I Know a Guy some love on Instagram, and
if you really do want to find me and you can't find me, just ask Sampley and we can
absolutely.
Noah, out.
I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait to talk to you again, and also I can't wait to be in a movie directed by you, man.
That's an honor, and I can't wait to work with you as an actor, as a writer, as whatever you want to work with me, however you want to work with me.
Dude, same here, man.
I'll freaking lift tripods with you if that's what you want.
Heck yeah, man, dude. Let's cater together. Next film, let's just cater. Both of us.
We're gonna take a year off and become Michelin starred catering service.
Yes. All right.
We'll get all the Food Network stars.
I'll pull some strings. All right, man.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much again, and I'll catch you later.
All right, dude. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.